The essence of the petroleum industry bill is to sanitize and help drive growth in the oil and gas industry. We're discussing the passage and the issues raised, though the Senate says they passed the PIGB, Petroleum Governance Bill. Today, Mr. Bismarck Rwani, an economist, was on the program. Honorable Wesley Dawson, a lawyer and a former lawmaker, and Dr. Chris Ekiyo, a former president of the John National Youth Council, will be talking to us right now on the program. Let me quickly come to you, Dr. Chris Ekiyo. Ken Saro-Wiwa and a host of all the activists in the Niger Delta who have cried for so many things, the sanitization of the oil and gas industry. And some people like you, how does the event of today, which happened on the floor of the Senate, make you feel after about a decade of this piece of legislation hanging in the balance?
All right, thank you very much. First, when I heard that it was passed and I saw it in a scroll bar, I felt a sigh of relief. But in a few minutes, I found out that it was a section that was passed. Now, for the PIB and the people of the Niger Delta, I think the most important part is what affects them. Now, the governance structure is about policies that will make it work, bring about transparency, fine for the whole of Nigeria. But what is more important is the environment. If they do not pass the other part of the bill in real time, that will allow that when these operations begin, with these new governance structures and licensing processes that will allow more investment, then the environment will still be despoiled. So they need to look at this bill in a way that serially they should pass both the next part and the final part for the host For the host communities in Niger Delta, they have been crying about environmental degradation, about neglect, about lack of inclusion. And it is the host community component of it that gives them that power to be included in this whole thing. So passage of this bill in one section, good step in the right direction, but then we must not slip again for another 8 to 10 years before you pass the next two parts of this bill. Otherwise, it's an idea for a new kind of crisis again with the host community because they've been excluded completely. If you look at the top part of the bill, that's where it gives them power to really participate and get equity on that. And that's what concerns the host community because that's where they can demand for certain rights in the operational ability of the oil and gas sector. However, I think what the Senate have done today need to be encouraged, and then they need to rapidly pursue the other part of this bill.
It does bring joy to some people that I've spoken with about what happened. Some misgiving might be about the content and the depth of it when some people are looking at the details. For someone like you are the leader of the in the Niger Delta. When we look at it now, that the host community entitlement and protection bill, which is we understand that is at committee level at the Senate, the petroleum industry fiscal bill, which of course we also understand that is another part of the PIB, which is not passed in the committee level. With what stands now and the relative peace that we see in the Niger Delta, what area do you think the National Assembly or the executive should be looking into? We talked about, the federal government talked about modular refinery. Is there something that comes to mind and the agitation in the minds of the people of the Niger Delta that needs to be considered urgently?
All right, thank you. If you look at this part that has been passed, that talk about governance structure, unbundling of NMPC and regulating the operationality of the sector. It's more for those who are professionally already involved in the whole oil and gas thing. Now, the host community have been shouting that they've been completely left out. It is that third component, the host community component, that deals with all these issues of even modular refineries being operated around host communities. So I think that the National Assembly, in order to ensure that this bill has a smooth sail without having a backlash from community end, should also begin to consider the physical component and the host community component. It is at that physical component where we talk about regulations and all those other policies that will help to deal with environmental degradation, gas flaring, and you can't only look at governance without considering the issues that will affect the community. But like I said earlier, we can always support what is good. This bill has for too long been lying low. But if you look at the original bill, it was quite clumsy, and they've been able to now narrow it down to areas where we can key in. Okay. I think with the same spirit which they have passed.
Let me go to Honorable Wesley Dawson now. The politics of the PIB. 10 years or so, and this bill was dilly-dallying in the National Assembly, several versions that we understand. Tell us, give Nigerians the benefit of your knowledge about what really happened. You are also from the Niger Delta region of the country. What has really happened, or what has bedeviled this PIB that made it a very tough one to come out of the National Assembly?
I think it was the interplay of stakeholders, conflict of interest. There's no question that the stakeholders were pushing their versions and challenging the original versions. The industry major players wanted to reflect their interest. They wanted policies that will promote their interests. There were, of course, nationalistic tendencies in the National Assembly. The various regions were also trying to push the point that oil is a national resource and therefore cannot be a monopoly of any region. So it was important to build a legislative consensus to ensure that this bill got some level of national support. But I think that the process of doing that was affected by the tenure limits of many assemblies. Do not forget that at the end of that, another set of politicking will take place, another set of members will be elected, and then, of course, it won't yet be uhuru for that bill. So this was the process of legislative creative tension that affected the smooth sail of the passage of the bill that affected it. But the good news is that many of these areas have been streamlined, and we are beginning to see the end result. I have no doubt in my mind that the committees that are dealing with the nitty-gritty of the rest parts of the bill will soon be turning out their report. It may yet be the end of negotiations, and it may be the beginning of a real consensus to give the country a befitting petroleum industry bill.
All right. Just before we close the program, final word, Honorable Wesley Daosa. Do you see this present National Assembly, the 8th Assembly, concluding on this PIB before the close of this assembly?
I think so. I think it's one of the deliverables they promised, and I see that they have some commitment, and it is important to encourage them to do this for Nigeria.
Honorable Kiseki, your final word on the program. What are your hopes in the coming days on this PIB? If it's passed, do you think this is probably going to be a big gift to the Niger Delta region or not?
Well, this PIB is more of a national bill than a bill for the Niger Delta people. So it's a nationalistic bill, and I think it's what we want because we continue to integrate ourselves in a country. However, I want to join Honorable West to say that the National Assembly needs to do what is necessary. It's commendable that in the last 2 years they have been able to pass a section of the bill. They need to look at the community components and get it passed. So then the Niger Delta people can say, okay, we are part of this benefit in this bill. Until then, it still looks like they've been excluded from the bill. However, I see it as a nationalistic bill that will improve the oil industry.
We must leave it at that. Many thanks, my guest, for coming on the program. Bismarck Iwani, an economist, Dr. Chris Ekio, former president of the John National Youth Council, and Honorable Wes Idaos, a former member of the House of Representatives, a lawyer. Many thanks, gentlemen, for coming on the program. And we do hope that the National Assembly leadership will come forward to explain more about what they are doing on this blade, and that's how far we can go on the program for tonight. Many thanks for being part of it. On behalf of the team, I'm Sean Kimbale. Bye for now.